다디네 다리데 칙디쿠바레스 군조지
Do you know so which verse number we are left off last time? 7? 8? 디리샤 다긴닝라 가르쳐야지 어디래시?
예 셈라
쌤라.
아예 다디 다디리 다 셈라 민두 나자 주에체스 라게 셈라 둥이 주에치 녀버 신기 심주 심주 쭉바이 랭에 춘자라라 코아인스 다다디 this subject the ani tambu delia subject tambu tila nyamsulim batila sum tikaresena kundup chanjugi sem jandam chanjugi sem che ani ngoas che tati di lochon diga kangat chu dubeina kundup chanjugi sem lobju jandam chanjugi sem lobju ani ngoas che sum tudores tin sa tande di kundup chanjugi sem lobju dres di tela subject ge yare subject ge na ne ta tande di sumba dereshas
So what you said is loud enough? Okay. So Rambuchi actually went back to the beginning of the text, yeah, and he said from the beginning, this text, you know, the wheel of sharp weapon can be it include into three categories. Okay, three categories. It means like 3 divisions. The first one is that how to train into the conventional bodhicitta, and the next one is the how to train into the ultimate bodhicitta. The last one is dedication. Yeah. So far we have been going through the first topic, the first divisions. First division has 8 subdivisions. Okay. So this verse, okay, this the verse number 8. Okay, verse number 8. We are at the fourth topics. Fourth topics. So we already cover 3 subdivisions. So this is right now we are at the fourth one.
Das sumbati ba. Dati 당부지
시버들에.
숨버들이.
숨버들이래. sure.
숨버 레다 레다 나미 방이 무슨 빼마를 정주 무스 류레메스나 나자 중에 제세야 됐다 로사송아 다디 숨버 그래서 디 콩리 다단데 셈란 동네 중에 제세야 디 숨버들이 숨버스 다다 디가 숨버들이 지금 만부도
류레메스 나자 중에 제세야 들어와.
되는마 아니 숨버들이 그래 숨버들이야 나미다 아니
maar lula miswe naza chungwe tse se di sumbar wala
제 숨버리 랑게 셈라 동네 중에 제 야바 신기 심기 쭉바이 랭에 촌자라라 코 예세야 디 숨버디
sumbar 단다 가지고 내일 레시 가르사
숨바들이 단대들이
개버디래도 개버디 디르게 하나 가지고 델러시 코너즈 개가지고 치 개버디 레셔서 치 개버디 디레 라운드 규드 팔라시 셴드까지 나도 랑워차스 레기 대신 예모 곰바 이스로 리든 교구는 그 동일남 규드 다기 된도 봉워차
랑게 셈레 동이 좀 치세
어서 다 디니 디시 겔데랑 된 틸라 슈베체 오 디니레시데
아
디니레시
그래 군조 지다
so you said we are at like verse number 8 right okay 오 디니레시
예
겔데랑 된 틸라 슈베체 도글라 랑기 데기 돌라 진세 오 디레시 아니 당보다 니버디 가리면
다티 디리 동네리 단대티
당보디 니버디 숨면배
담보디 디리 sabje 당보디 sabje 당보디 배등기 권에 장세 맙졌다비 그에 나 던지다 요모 주도 그르지스제 아니 당도 랑와스제 shumjis this tambudi khona
so the says we have 8 subdivisions for the first one, right? First one is how to train into the conventional bodhicitta. It has eight subdivisions. So the first one is explaining with an example, sort of like example, example of the peacock. Okay, so that verse, okay, is from verse number 1 to so that topic covers from verse number 1 to verse number 7. Okay, yes, verse number 7. Then the that is.
Oh, that is. That subject, nibatirba. Nibati tongne kumsus.
The second one is training of the tonglen. It's like giving and taking and giving.
That is tandes zawatire katira kati.
Kade rangdu tiwa shubetsi.
Kade rangdu tiwa shubetsi. Samba ani tiwa shubetsi.
Dogla rangi teki tola jins. We did all the way up to 9. Yeah, Rambushos starting from there actually. We did 9. Okay. Okay. Chidan gebat gubati chesasha.
Chesa.
Mar geware lar kunzu kengalde.
Ta
gebati
ta medul nata chunga sayatire karasa semla tunge chunga ches.
So the verse number 8 is Tonglen practice. Okay, so it covers the practice of Tonglen. Tonglen is taking and giving.
Ta tande ti tirida sumbati tere subject
sumbati los. Rangi semla dunge chunge ches.
Okay.
So we are at verse number 10 actually. Yeah, Rambushi was telling me like it's verse number 10. And then I told him to sleep. He's saying verse number 8, so we were going back. So from the verse number 9, okay, verse number 9, we are starting the third topics, which is Pangnian slide lasha again. Pangnian khare again.
Pangnian ngusune pemar chang.
So Pangnian ngusune pemar chang. So Pangnian ngusune identifying the objects of to be abandoned and object to be undertake. Okay, and by identifying those two objects, then train into step by step. So that is starting from the verse number 9.
Oh, that is go to Pangni and the CJT go to Nemazu. That is.
Yes.
The range similar to nge chue se ngebar shengi simju tukba yi lenge chunja rang la ko yins ta range similar kenge be ongi similar ya kange ji the sune ya ke kaya matene ya be rang le ya similar ya kange the similar to nge ya jerba ti yonya ti ta samne ti kare ina sam tinte kange the de kare ina sam ta yin du ani ngo rangi lama ta phama ta ani tropo ta tinte gi tropo la sobe ni simkyu tukbe ong juaris juan imbatas jele samlu tangku yare.
So the verse number 10, when my mind falls prey to suffering, it is the weapon of evil karma turning upon me for definitely causing turbulence, right? Turbulence in the hearts of others. From now on, I will take all sufferings upon myself. So when you have suffering in your mind, then we should imagine and we should think that this is the result of your own karma. So the result of your karma, so there we have been like plants and kind of like a seed. So you can imagine that we have causing a lot of troubles to others' hearts. For instance, your teacher and your family and your friends. So by doing that, so we have to assume we have done something that to the others. That's why we are experiencing that kind of problems in our sufferings in this moment. So imagine that.
Oh, ani judu yidu something study juje de karre to samlu ta yin ani rangi shengi sum tukbe ani leg chunjati leg namiti leg chunja sen leg nami te ran ko sha sam te samlu tanguris je.
So I'm having that kind of experience, like a suffering. For instance, here sufferings of your mind, like uneasy kind of feeling. Right? So there is, we should, so definitely there is some causes for that. So the only causes can be the similar kind of act, similar kind of experience you have done to some other beings. So that could be like harming to other, and making trouble to your friends and parents and so on and so forth.
Ti in the career that's career ne chi ngob kande chi ne gyugen chi ma gyugen chi le ten jung gu du ga ti ha gu du ba ti in de zamba ta tin de ju ya ti gyugen chi ne yu gu gu is gyugen te lama ta la gi ti kare su de kunjo gi ni soba maris kangiti kungu ju soba mari ta kare che do se ne ra gi ani kyo ngamana su shengi sem tukbala tene chunge te debu jin tu sambarab samlu ti tanguris.
So is it true that everything comes into existence because of some collection of some factors and some causes? So when we look at the outer kind of world, outer phenomena, so it's really easier for us to understand something's happens because due to some causes and effect. So we can imagine that. In the similar manner, we can think of inner world also as well. Like if you have some experience, so one thing is sure that we don't believe the Buddha or maybe a creator. So we don't believe they causes us to have experienced that kind of difficulties, that kind of sufferings. So that is sure that they are not the agent of our own suffering. Okay, they are not the troublemaker for us. So we are sure that. So then but on the other side, we should understand that there must have some causes for that whatever you experience this moment. So similar like for the other world, we can compare to the other world as well, like other worlds. So then when we look, then only it comes to your own act, your own the way of thinking and way of act behaviors. So then since we have causes, we have been engaging into that kind of negative the actions for so far. That action causes the sufferings. Right this moment what we are experiencing. So these are the causes. So we should understand there are some causes. It's not created by some other third kind of beings. So this is the causes by yourself.
다티네 다니 두가 말루 다운들랑스 다니 시티 틴데 인자스 베 라기 랭이베 온기 아니 틴데기 강에디 체바 인사 다니 두가 말루 다운들랑스디 다니 두가 시티 둥에시게레 둥에 말루바 아니 둥에 탐제 셴기 둥에 탐제 아니 랑게 셈텐도 렌스 다니 두가 말루 당도 랑스디 다니 시디 딘데 인사스 두가 말루 시네 둥에 말루 바시도 셈제 탐제기 둥에 당도 랑스디 아니 랑게 셈기 땡도 아니 렘바자오 냠베 다
So then the text, the last line, from now on I will take all sufferings upon myself. So all, he says all refers to entire sentient beings. So since we understand that our own the result of the sufferings, sufferings experiences is caused by yourself, then so now willingly it's like a best method to overcome that kind of problem in the future is to take upon all the sufferings of the other beings. So here dukkha means sufferings, yeah, dukkha is suffering, yeah, suffering. So I'll take upon all the sufferings of every sentient beings.
That samlut tani ane kunjola soata chije tema de kunjola soata viare ane simje thamje gi pe kange thamje rangi julme bashos kunjola soata ane tongle ane soata cha chuden tongle kom tongle situ tong situ pa taya driba tambo len situ chuleya dire yine chigle tong len situ siare de nyam sulen tu tambo shengu tungye tamje rala chula dilla chasuna ani shengi rangi deki tamje rangi gewa kade sa shabata ran deki kande chune ti pa tang oti chegures tong len siade.
So once you finish this recite, or if you are doing meditation on this particular verse, then there's we met the so the so hadutabre so tabre so the gangi chiktem de khawatabre
so tabe titande chi dunge karasa ani lule medu nata chuena ani karasa lenge chunjaran ko yin se atiki ta chikdili yare.
And in the previous verse number 9, we made a prayer at that moment. So just before verse number 9, and this verse number 8, that is the practice of tonglen, okay, taking and giving. In English, I think they say taking and giving. In Tibetan, it says giving and taking. Yeah, giving and taking. Yeah. So we made a prayer actually. Which is in the verse we don't use the verbal kind of expression. But mentally, we made a prayer over here at in the verse number 9. Okay, so then when we do the verse number 10 or meditation or contemplation, whatever you're doing, so you need to bring down those two elements from the verse number 8 and verse number 9. So verse number 8, we practice Tonglen, right? Tonglen practice. And in verse number 9, we made a pledge or kind of like a prayer, prayer. So bring those two down so you can bring those two elements include. We should include into the verse number 10. Sorry. So Tonglen practice, right? Tonglen practice. In Tibetan it says Tonglen. Tonglen is like a giving and taken. Okay, giving and taken. In the word, in the Tibetan expression, it says Tonglen, giving and taken. But when we do the actual practice, we do the reversal kind of manner, like the opposite manner. So first we need to take upon, okay, take upon all the sufferings of the sentient beings. Take upon you. Then after that, you give away your virtues, your happiness to the sentient beings. It's going like a reverse. Even though in the Tibetan it says like another way, but in the practice, actual practice, we do the reverse manner.
Oh, that semje tham jegi semgi tunge kan yobati rangi tengtu langgoya langgobe juje karesena tunge tamje rachintile tene chuayimba. Mendoba kanga kange tunge thamje ta sengi tunge ne luki tunge kanga rachintile tene chuayesa ti tunge semje thamje tunge thamje chu langne rachintile tentu langne rachintile tu meba che so sambarab che we susu gewala soba digi kare ne pa semje thamje la ta ko ya de kare sena degi thamje kare so we digi thamje shala tene juan yesa rangi digi ti shala tene juan re digi kan yubati shala tene juan jesa rangi digi thamje pa semje shala tang ko ya de ani digi thamje ge zawati ani kare so de what it is.
So, in the verse, when you look at the verse, it says, "I will take all sufferings upon myself." Right. So then, we may curious, or we may like wonder why we take all the sufferings of the sentient beings. Right. So, remember, says there's a meaning for that verse, that practice, because all the sufferings, whatever you experience, all the sufferings and every difficulties actually caused by the self-cherishing, right? Self-cherishing. So self-cherishing is so always concerning about yourself, thinking yourself, really narrow-minded kind of attitude. So that causes actually all the difficulties, So then the sufferings. That's why we need to take upon all the sufferings upon yourself, and in order to reduce or eliminate the self-grasping, self-cherishing. So self-cherishing. Then there's a reason why we are giving away all our virtues and happiness to the sentient beings, because whatever you experience, happiness, in terms of happiness and the pleasurable kind of sense, anything, these experiences are actually caused by the other. Okay, so first when we talk about the virtuous act, okay, virtuous act can be done only depend on others. So by doing that, thinking about other, but helping other, that attitude, that act actually causes us to experience, bring us to happiness in our life, in our mind stream. So that's why it's worthwhile to give away happiness for the sentient beings.
Oh, tine kunjo la soa tine stabina kunjo tu ni gyarba karasena shengi tunge thamje nye teng tu member shows jabina ane sangele ya kunjo la soa tabina ane sangye tu gi gyar karasena ti thamje karasena shengi kange thamje rang subar bachire karasugre shengi tunge thamje samlo pha jacham batane shengi tunge thamje rang subar soche simje thamje rangi ma jebe ji jamya bre ma jebe negapsu ma jebe negapsu bui döndo ani tabje mambu je bui döndo lenge mambu sa ta be simje thamje le kange theya di bui döndo dipasa chadang go ndo so dipasa tinde jebala teni ani simje de kange chungor ba ti sa ra kyewa thoma me bane kyewa mabula yar ti ne ga su ma che be ne ga su ani rang kange kange mabuchi ma ge se yar ti ki mabuchi ma ge tu yar ti tu tu zamba ti tu ge ma ti gi tabju mabuchi je yar tabju mabuchi je yin tu zamba ani lēngi mabu sāyāri. O sāba yinsa tūsū dēburu jī ringi yāri. Samtā jītā na māsē dī tōnglē kumbā dī kārī sīngāni jāmbā kumbā yāri. Shēngi tūngi thāyam jēri rāngi chūli lēngi tū nying jī kumbā yāri. Shēngi simjā tamjā tūngi kī chūtā tēwā chūchī jāmbā nying jī kumbā yāri. 동네 대화 됐다 그 제야 때 가르스네 대화 주지면은 따번나시 랑기 출 쿠르도 랑국이야래 심제 탐제 그 동네 랑 쿠르도 출라 심제 탐제 동네 대화 제송 삼바제비나 다티 닝지 공부야래 렘베급스 동네 급스 잠바 공부야래 랑기 디기 간가 파다 말을 때네 심제 탐제 디기 든덴바 제소 삼바티 대화다 대외 규든덴바 주지 세야기 된다 디투스 삼바지기래.
So we tend to believe that if we make offerings, make pleas, higher beings like Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, right? Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. So another form we can make them please is to think about other, helping other and concerning about other. If we have that kind of mind, they will be pleased with us or with our mental attitude and with our intention. So they will be pleased with our intention. So that's why it's also worthwhile to be concerned about other and think about other and helping other, because we make pleased and we make happy, we make happy to all the higher beings like Buddhas and Bodhisattva. So then, and if you then, and also, so we can look from a different perspective. So there are many people, or limitless of sentient beings are going through different kinds of sufferings, different kinds of problem. So if you look from one perspective, maybe, so whatever they were experiencing this moment, suffering, in terms of suffering, so maybe I am the causes. I am the one who gave them that kind of suffering. You can think of that, because so we believe that we have been taking life for a limitless time, right? A numberless time, and whenever we take rebirth in some places, we need to take rebirth through our mother. So it seems, and we believe that every sentient beings have been our mother. Okay, they've been act as our mother in some one or another way, in the different lives, right? So during we are becoming we were their son or children, they always protect us. They always sacrifice their own well-being for us. So when they seek happiness for their child and their children, they always uses the negative actions, negative method always. So by doing that negative method, they have created tremendous of a negative the karma. So that karma, maybe whatever they experience this moment, one of their one of the causes could be from me. You can think of that, So, so if you look at that kind of perspective, then you can imagine whoever experiencing suffering, so the creator or the causes of their suffering could be me. So that's why it's worthwhile to taking upon all the sufferings of the sentient beings. And then another one is obviously if you do the practice of taking and giving, so that actually has the practice of the love and compassion. Okay, love and compassion. So we know that the love and compassion is the most the best kind of like a best practice we can do in this life. So that's if you do that, and also it fulfills that kind of commitment or that kind of activities.
Oh, that is that in a similar gange change the Zamba Samla time Mabuyari. Similar gange tea digi rangi shengi sem to be deputy means sambache. Lang but the task on Sambarabchi, some cheat and gear. Caressina rangi sem shengi sem to Shabag Lang but Sire, dig deputy memberva. That means Nara shengi sem to be Lang but the start on some cheat and gear.
So, and also from think of yourself, if you are experiencing difficulties and suffering, then we have realized that it came from your own bad karma. Okay, so your bad deeds, negative actions. So once you have experienced whatever the result could be from that action, then we believe there's not going to give another result, another the fruit, whatever you have committed, that kind of negative actions. So in that sense, we should rejoice that we have burned some level of the karma.
Oh, and the Tunge Tibet Chahimi is Tibet Chama, Tibema Chaya, Kenny Chaya, Chama Jiduga, Tinashi, Ne Tungeti, Tibet, Tibema Chaya, Chamanashi is. Tungere Juni, Tungegi, Lake, Lang, but it said to Yerva, Tipper it said to Yerva, or this says some Repchewer.
So there's some practitioner, they look their own suffering as broom, like broom, broom. So they believe, they think, whenever they experience suffering, it's like their sufferings act like a broom and cleaning away and throwing away the negative karmas.
Oh, then Tunge man ninju mess, Jevria, Kangach matter, Kangach tell you to some bachig. Anish chigi. Shiag Samloji Kugri, Chug Samloji Kugri. Ganget Matepato, Anipe Sempe Yingni, Chuyungia Marva. Ganget retain to Zambani, Gangetile Tadagui, Samluchi, Samluti Chikin, any Chujiag Samlu, Chuji, Maniji ne Taya, Chikari ne Jis. Church Tingriba. Just Tunge men and Ninjume said Jeffrey. Tunge you do, Gabra Tunge you into Tambani church Tingri, Shia Tingri. And the Tigiralia church yag, Gumachi, Gumachi to some Sarajunguer.
And also it says, if there's no suffering and there's no renunciation. So the renunciation, in order to develop renunciation, is the understanding or the experiencing the suffering. If you don't have experience of suffering, and it's really difficult for us to generate renunciation. So, the suffering actually help us to generate the renunciation.
Oh, then give it to Basavachis. And she can't change the Zamba, need some demashuni, being I name it, Chipe, something I get of Jerva, I get the mashum to get it. Just some kugu to negi, Yundechi shire.
And another good quality, the good quality of suffering is if you have suffering, it minimize or it reduce or overcome, sort of like overcome your pride. So many times, like, so we are having problems with, because we think we are the something's really important in this world for myself or something like that. We have really pride, really high pride and arrogance, sort of like. So if you have experience of suffering, and then it reduce and it like overcome that kind of problem.
Tene kara sugre khoa pala ngi kes. Rang sem tube kange de chui du tamba shuma sem shenda ji sem tu sha sem nga sem debu mi du sit a de di kange chimbu ye samne ne shala ngi ji ke ya khoa pala ngi ji kes. Rang ge kange di jene shala kange de yoba thon du tamba ta ngi ji tung kange de ne jene chi maru kange de lel haba me shiragi lel haba kar sugre kange shibju ye sam ani shenge kange de thon du shala ngi ji ke ya.
And also suffering helps you to generate the compassionate mind. So let me say, if you have been through certain type of difficulties, when you see someone's having the similar kind of difficulties, you can understand how they feel, and how they have difficulties and sufferings, because you have already that kind of experience. So by having that kind of experience, it gives you a knowledge about others' suffering. Then it helps you to generate the compassionate mind.
Tene diglan zimshi gelakas. Tati ngare di leng digbe debri shasam. Ane tati digbe jesuna ngare pe leng basaba digi debi imbat samlutani. Ta digbe singi di jigumindu. Digbe jena kange je di tegdu sa jene digbe lan zimyati yungiyaris.
So then, and also by doing this kind of meditation or this kind of contemplation, then we understand suffering is something we don't want, right? Something that makes like unhappy for us. Since we understand that, then it helps you to like restrain, or helps you to prevent from engaging into the negative actions. So you understand that if you commit some kind of negative actions, that brings unfavorable kind of consequences in the future. So you don't want to have that kind of. So you're stopping from the beginning, or sort of like from the seeds, or from the initial level.
That ya samlochi in the kange mendu na kewa tubs kewa kui machik tu sangyari. Diglan zimshi gelakas. Ane da kange di chen yu tamba da kange di karasune di bendebrisha. Da di bechin lege bachingi mindu tine le sambus kewa chiku tu samar. Kewa china kange di mindu na ane kewa tubshos kui machigiyari. O di na kange di samla kange di pova di chene kare chigiyari. Kina kange mendu na kewa trubshos. Tipa paan kukuri, kewa trub kukuri. Awa tinde samlo paa kea yunguri.
So, and also if you have sufferings, difficulties, then encourage you to practice the virtues and virtuous deeds or virtuous actions, because so if you do virtuous actions, do you understand? If you do virtuous actions, virtuous deeds, then that brings happiness in the future. Then when you have suffering, it encourages you to accumulate that type of the positive type of karma in more extended way.
Oh, that in a kunjo tu gayat karesena sem sambushi jebri. Semje guwa chebari, semje thamje ki kange di ngendi guicho beshos. Ani semje thamje tinte kange mi juwa sho, nge di kiteng ming besho sambat cheba yindu, semje guwa chebarba, semje la ya sambe tene pemba chebarba. semje guje mato ba sangye gebe tabshi message semje guwar jeba ti majuna sangye geya ge tab ya mari jebre jasa di cheneta semje guwar jeba seya di jungu yare semje guwar jeba ti yundu tamba ne sangye tu gege yares.
So if you have a mind of taking upon all the sufferings and all the sentient being sufferings upon you, that mind is really powerful and it's really beautiful himself, because so in the text it says without pleasing sentient beings, that's impossible to please the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. You know? So in that the quotation, it explains that if you have that kind of mind, you know, if that kind of mind, so wish or willing to taking up all the sufferings of sentient beings upon yourself, that is so that is actually from your mind, kind of like through your mind exercise, you are willing to taking up all the sentient sufferings of the sentient beings. That kind of mind exercise is really powerful. That so that pleased, that makes Buddhas and Bodhisattvas happy, and like that please them through that kind of intention. So that is the best kind of like offering for Buddhas and Bodhisattvas.
Oh, the di chena kange theba di chen sem shum je deba ina kange di se tu ya mare dande ki samlu tu ge ta suna sem ke kange se ya le phendo ma bu yung ya res di ma je be je sem shum je de kange khura dunge khura sam ta je de deba ina ani sem le kange che ro do ya sem le kange che lu chena lu le kange the ya din de yung ya res sem kya chen bu je yin de sem ke kange di chung ru chi.
So when you have sufferings and difficulties, if you're able to maintain that kind of mind attitude, you know, so what Rinpoche just explained, you know, how to carry your mind, set up your mind while you have that kind of problem. If you're able to do that, then it is sure that the mind, the sufferings of the mind, this cannot affect a physical level. It's not going to turn on like a physical level. Otherwise, if you think when you have suffering, then you'll get depressed and about your suffering, and if you're dwelling on that kind of sufferings, you know, and that can cause you a physical kind of discomfort. If you're able to keep that kind of mental attitude, what I just mentioned, at least, you know, so it will calm your mind. And it's not going to affect your physical level.
Other teacher, Karasene, Semdi, Loja Chamber, Loja Cheru Chamber, Loja change to Gange the Chung to wear. Sem Loja to Pachung to China, Be Shum Jetevin, Gange Chegerba, and there's some little time to Semdi Loja Cheru. So
yeah, Mr. Logia Cheru means like widen your mind or understanding. Okay, so that is like instead of doing like a narrow-minded, you know, so thinking like on like one single thing. So open your mind and look from different angles and different perspective. Then it helps you to overcome that kind of situation. Otherwise, if you're being like single-minded or like narrow-minded, and instead of solving that problem, it's causing more and more problem on top of whatever you're experiencing.
Oh, that and that don't let come the leya de caress, don't ya the leya de caress and Semjegi cutting sugary. Semjegi cutting suya, the same getting cutting suya, ani chigi. Lu tang ngag kune kade suya tinde yore tande tongne kum chi chia ti sem gtone semje chi gi tilen su yore rang tigi tham je shela tene juar ba rang tigi tham je shela tene juar ti ha ku du ga tambu ra ki tu zamba ka ke yamare tigi ka ge yende ka ge yamare bejo ka ge yamare tinde chile ani chi rāla tīki chūngari, yuñde yuñari, yuñde yuñyāti tīki yuñyā kāngā, xiānla tēne chūngā rāba, xiānga kati rāba, xiānga kati yuñsā, āni 지 동네 구매하기 심기톤에 신기 거진 수기야리스.
So, if you have that kind of mind, wishing or willing to taking upon all the sufferings of sentient beings, and this is another form of repaying their kindness, because so when we look at this life, when we come to this world, and so we are like kind of like hopeless, like not hopeless. I mean like helpless. Sorry, yes, helpless. Right? And the mother took care of us, so going through like a different kinds of difficulties in order to raise that kids. So in this life, we have also depend on others' help. And when we will look in the larger view and everything, so your happiness, your career, and your job, and everything is depend on others. So that's why others really benefit for us. So that's why we need to repay them their kindness. And there's three ways. There are three ways to repay their kindness, verbally, and mentally, and physically. So if we have that kind of attitude, mental attitude, willing to take up all the sufferings of sentient beings, we're actually repaying them through your mind. So then, after a while, then you can transform them into the other two the doors, or the verbally and the physical.
Oh, this any rangi troops in a deer randu deer tuberis, rangu tunda deer tuberis. Any Karasugare, rangu tunda deer tubiaris. Any sange tu gia di gigiaris. Simjela pendo gia di jungaris. Jasa dindechena. Semjele pendo jia di trubari, sange tu geba di tu, rang tunda di trubari, rang tunda singa sjani pe, rajinti jene tunda truguya mare, rajit shen jinti jene, ani jena rang tunda di truguya re. Oti insan, oti.
So if you have that kind of mind, so willing to help other, so they're concerning about other, so that mind helps both sides, yourself and other. So it helps you to reduce your own difficulties, and also reduce and prevent you to harm other sentient beings. It helps. On the other hand, if you have like the self-centeredness kind of mind, and the self-cherishing, then that causes problems to you, and also the problems to others. So that's why it's really good to keep the mindset that always concerning about other and helping to other.
Yeah, that is joy best.
Any questions so far? Yes.
You're taking it on. They're not doing anything to make their situation better. They're relying on your goodwill and your support. We use the word enable, so you kind of have the other person enabled. I guess when is that? How we deal in those situations where you become now the. Did you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I can understand.
Short words, but I haven't drinking my coffee. But that your health now becomes your problem, and the person is relying on you.
Yeah, they're doing nothing for themselves.
They're not doing anything for themselves because you're there to help them.
Okay. So how do you deal with that kind of situation?
How do you deal with that in a way that also shows compassion? And we're saying we're helping. We want to help because we care, but that help now almost becomes a dependency on you.
Okay.
Your burden.
Oh yeah. This is a penetration. The shingi shengi dungen zurang len chi chi sigo ro da pena chashana da nedan dende ra uji chungwa ina pena pene miji yena midi susu le ya susu gi da ropa da susu gi da chi chego ya ko neba che a susu gi kol ropa che midi le ropa che ne khazam che ne khorang ke ma che ba che khorang yang chi 강에 가래 ne dnia tartab ke tabshi de ke ma che ba che changma susu gang le ya ne bet ke chi dis de ba ina 안 수술에 강에 춤부 책이 올라왔어요. 수술 강에 춤부 책이 올라서 봐주들 때. 니도 값이 안에 다 간데 쳐버렸어.
수술 강에 책이 올라왔어.
수술 강에 춤부 책이 올라다. 수술 때 코로나 비게 메디파 님에서 배배제 메저서라 수기 올라와.
그래. 수술 강에 쳐버리. 띠 아까서 그래. 아니 수수기지 자와 첨부시 제버렸어. 라니 강에 쳐야지. 강에 거제 쳐버디. 셴그든도 강에 쳐버렸어. 랑그든도 말했어. 셴그든도 강에 쳐버렸어. 디스도 산게 투기야 디니 그랬어. 마오바나 디기 유야디 디 용구야랬어. 단다 강에 쳐버렸어. 마오바나 디기 땡이 디 그랬어. 산게 투기야 디 지그랬어. 어디 뭐니 그래서 그래. 어디리스 다 디케나르페 junguke maris kyurang 캡산럽 지레스
디들에 다 뭐라기 제가 땅에 소지를 가르려고 열었으나 파주 미지요라 파주 미디 수수강에 다디 니에베 소라지 파주 미디 개 맞지 봐지 파주 미디 촐라드베 소라지 지기요 와시고 파주 미지요라 디 촐라드베 소라지 수수지 보면 파주 촐라드베 소라지 지기요 어디 간댔어 셋업 간댔어 그래서
수수 다디 랑게 도체네 파주데 촐란도 레시게르베
다 촐라 땅베 소라 지기요라 다 수술에 쉬우지 디체데데
수수가 랑게 삼바타바네 지야디 셴 촐라 담바 마레스 디 코랑 근문에 맞중을 봤어 코랑 근문에 맞주버리 디데 아니 가로수 그래 키랑기 쟁이게 말했어.
So Ramushi said, so when you help somebody, okay, it's like totally dependent on you. So if you're able to provide help, so that is really good thing to do. Good thing to do, and also it, so that kind of helping, and that kind of, so helping to this individual is actually one of the Buddha's activities. Buddha's activities, they will please whatever you do in terms of that. But if that individual is trying not to come out that kind of situation, that kind of problem, and that is not your fault. Okay, that's not your fault. So that is their fault, because you don't have to feel guilty about their situation.
저때 셴 풍구이나 랑그로 버디 셴 풍구이나 된데야 삼로 동야야레스 그래서나 랑기 때 bên 짐바단도 잠바 짐바들레 만부야레스 짐바다 천재 짐바다야 다미리버레스 천재 짐바단 순에 다미리버레스 디네 지기 메트발라 세 메트발라 세 진수나 네바딘데 세 메트발라 세 진수나 디에 진rum기야 말레스 디나 신체네 쿠란라 참박의 펜도 참바지기 펜도야기 자와디지고 될 콜런네베 자와지나 이렇게 말이스 디 삼루탄에 수수 갑도 삼루탄구비야레스
제가 미디어한테 네베서라 지고라 디디 삼로 갈던 거
제선 세테서 네베디 지구야 말이스
So remember that sometime, some occasion, your help and your generosity, can harm the recipient, the individuals. Understand? At that moment, if it comes into that kind of circumstance, then you need to be really skillful. You need to be really careful, helping that individual. Understand? For instance, the practice of generosity. Okay, practice of generosity. They encourage you to practice of generosity in like any angle, but so from your side, we need to determine with the time and the person and the objects and so on and so forth. We need to like look into those kind of factors as well, because so you can go out and offering like giving away weapons to the people in like in the practice of like the generosity. Let me say this is inappropriate because the object is inappropriate, you know, and and let me say and also for instance person, you know, so you can give like unhealthy kind of food to like a person. Unhealthy food means like let me say here if someone has like a problem with their health issue, they can eat like a certain type of food. If you offer that food to that individual, that become instead of helping them, it causing problem for that individual. So that's why we need to be really careful while we do this kind of practice. Even though they are the practice of generosity, but we need to determine the recipient, object, and everything, and skillfully we need to engage into that kind of practice.
That's in it.
Thank you, Akshay.
When we're practicing taking upon the suffering of others, can we actually relieve some of their suffering?
아주 동네 다운도 렌스 라로와. 동네 다운도 도스 렘네 콘솔 오네 동네 매바치 차토를 해서.
어디 차투 말이지. 동네 다운도 렌스는 컨트롤해야 펜도 연구를 위해서는 아니 컨트롤 펜도 유링부 삼단 펜도 지역 주주 연구를 그래서는 신기 동네 단돌라 랑기 디체도 신기 동네 미주와쇼 신기 신의 그래서 등에 딘데 미주와쇼 면함다 신기 동네 단돌네 템발했더니 아니 랑지 마오반의 신기 동네 세야기 아니 차견 루그리 단다 커투데 마티네야 마오바나 아니 신기 강에 세야기 그거 유야기 딘데 야리스 마세 랑기 셈 상부제 발했더니 아니 샤는 펜도 만부치는 거야리스 델라소베 신다 만부치라 셈 상부제 발했더니 류가기 레님바 마사버제 샤는 네바 메쳐야 셈 상부 메나 샤는 네바 지기르바 셈 상부 뒤베도기 샤는 네바 고야 디 니네바도 고네 신이 주니 아니 마오바나 신기 강에 세투야기 커두기 강에 세마도네야 마오바나 지겨와를 토마이 매버진 바지 삼루 땅구여라 아니 마오바나 가사디기 강에 세투야기 딘데려와야리스 아니 상계기 투기야 셈 상부제버디 상계 투기게리스 그래서는 강가로 디기게 자와 그 셈을 투브리스 셈 겜바탄 셈 상불로 투투게리스 디에서 랑 셈 상부도 쇼네 만부치라 디기 준 투브리스 커도 콜라 마페네 만부치라 셈 상부디기 디기 만부 준 투브리스 아니 마음바나 거기 강에서야기 자기는 두기야 상이 투기기야 데르바 아니 디
So, yeah, when you do the meditation, you know, visualization, taking up on all the sufferings of the sentient beings, Rinpoche is not going to affect them right away. Okay, so by meditating on that, meditating their taking up the suffering, they are not going to free from that kind of suffering directly, kind of like at this moment. But when you do this kind of meditation, you are creating causes and factors that can provide them and help them to free from suffering in the future. Because so you train your mind and you're wishing to taking up all the sentient beings' sufferings, and that creates some causes. And in the future, then we believe that our life is limitless. So it goes on and on, right? So and like some occasion and some time, we'll meet that individual, we'll see them individual directly, with contact with that directly, then we can become like a beneficiary for them, provide them helping or whatever is necessary at that moment. So that can be like become the causes for their future. If you are specifically aiming on like one object, one person, that can be like contact with you in the future, then you can do whatever you have intended in the future, the past lifetime, and so on. So you can do that. I'm saying it happens, and so the one thing is like a certainty. I'm saying it's like sure. If you have that kind of mental attitude, so you are not going to harm any single sentient beings. This is really sure, definite. I'm saying. So because you have that kind of willing to help sentient beings, so helping to sentient beings. If you have that kind of intention, so you are not going to engage into any action that can cause sufferings to the sentient beings. So then also, and when we talk about the world peace or whatever the things, right? So it's starting from individuals, so like us, like us. If we have that kind of mental attitude, helping to sentient beings, not harming to sentient beings, then that can affect, like they can, from like an individual, they can affect in the global level to be like become a peace.
아니 파조디 랑게 세미시에 투니지나 콜라티기 중기야리 거기 내치도 삼르딘데 땅소 가르수레 내강에 세야게 치도 배 삼르배 딘데 땅소 삼바 라르다니 내배 강에 탐제배 쿠랑기 다운둘라니 딘데기 샘상부지 제소 삼니 시엔 가와지그리 신기 랑가 샘하고 니지나 다디 샘제 탐제기 강에 세디 나라 랑기 샘 신이 만부야리스 강에 테디니 디나라 랑기 샘 신이 만부야리 도수 강가기 그게 쳇도베 샘상부딘데 제소 삼니 가와지그리스 베네 미지기 지난기 치도베 삼로베 강에 세야다 대화주야게 삼로 짱짱지 담버럽지나 지난기 미디 삼로 타고서 지난 가그리바 아이 지난 가서는 지난 디기 좀 버려 그셈 삼부디기 디나시 랑기셈 삼부디기 하고 예지나 셈 삼부디기 신을 디기 좀 버려 신가그리바 산지 토기게리 디나시 제주 셈바도스 그 삼로 야부시 땅소 삼네 토기그리바 디나시 강에세 디세야디 나라 신기 동에 수 당도 렌서 디나라야 랑기 셈신이 만부야 셈마신이 만부야 셈신이 두수 셈라 커둘리 디기테토리스 셈마신이 두수라 커둘리 디기 제마도니야
So, if you have that kind of mind, willing to take up all the sentient beings' suffering, there are a lot of sentient beings. They can read, they can understand others beings' mind. So yes, they can feel what we think, and they can understand what we think. If you have that kind of mind, some people, they have like sort of like clairvoyance, right? Clairvoyance, but even though they have understand your concern, your way of thinking, in a positive way of thinking, but there are some being actually going through like their difficulties and sufferings. So even though they might have some clairvoyance, some extent of clairvoyance, but they are like some being also have the experience of the sufferings. So if that kind of individual, if they understand or realize what we're thinking, then they will be happy. So they say like, oh, so when we see us, then this kind of individual, when see us, then they think, oh, this is the really good person. They always, so try to eliminate my problem, thinking about my problem. So that kind of understanding gives them like a pleasure kind of sense in their mind stream. So that can affect directly, but there are many other sentient beings doesn't have that kind of ability to read others' mind, but may not affect at this moment, but in the future, there are like time or so you can help. Pick it to what you
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure I was understanding it in a general sense. If suffering really just comes from ignorance in our own actions, so when we're taking on the suffering of others, I want to understand when we say taking on, I think the way I'm thinking it is that I'm going ahead and understanding, I'm being not responsible, but I'm going ahead and participating, and so I'm understanding that what's happening in your suffering is because of things that they've done, and going ahead and by giving away my happiness or my merit would be that I go ahead and give the love that I have, the understanding, instead of being judgmental. And so it's not so much that I have to give them the rice, or I can't really fix
Their problem.
their sufferings, but it is my happiness, my love, my concern, my understanding, that is what helps them. Clearing up the ignorance, understanding the ignorance, yes?
Okay, I'll try. This is the penetration tandadi ngazugi susu dungye da susugi khari imba ina susugi legi tsan sebare susugi ani mongbe wongi chebare sana sama lagye ore so ta penetration shenda ji dungye ji rangi lindu zambale ya ta khunzo longone pentogre bes kaisene penetration khunzogi khalore 코란족이 녀모 코란족 레냐 바지 코란족 딘지 코란족 사교로 왔어. 다 코란족 사교로 딘지 좀 설서. 사교로 디 펜토그로 베스. 안 답변에서 콘솔 딘데 쌈 콘솔이 제도 딘데 이제 갈로 로상보라 지게 딘데 딘데 다 가서 수수기 가서 수수기 마리바세요. 마리발라. 담몽베 마리바. 쌍만 써야 되고 지는 딘데 지레베스. 칸데스레스 보다.
Lengi bati kurang sabari di lengi bati nganzu chidu sayaris. Ngaranzu kewala thoma mebache, ma cheba thoma mebaris, bu cheba thoma mebaris, bu cheba negarsu mati ki pe tabzu shibu cheyaris, tabzu shibu cheyindu zamba dibu mambu sayaris, digi jebu dunge jiris. Chesane di dunge di lengi bati 제부티 랭게버티 란트 드와야리스 이 드와유사 가르스그레 딘데기 차네 랑기 세구야 차데야리스 마세 가르스그레 파조데 무스펜트 다지트 랩처와 지 아니 가르스그레 무스 마페네 랑르 펜도 침부 지중으리스 현달 펜도 중개야 말이서도 라르 펜도 매제 대대네 이게 말이스 라페 미 여럽기 미 여럽 메섬사 지 상계기 배 공부도 tum버지 삼루치 담버리스 디르 라르 핑기야레스 디 챤레 핑기베 야 말이스 제네 디 요도 도나 라르 누그리스 디 라르 펜도 갸침부슈 라르 펜도 갸침부추나 아니 남시나 그래서그래 신도 강에 체니도 수 핀도 제약이 자긴지 저기야 그랬어.
So it seems like there are two things you should think of. Like first of all, when you see someone suffering, right? Someone suffering. So and in the text it says we need to take upon their suffering, right? So that is because when you see someone suffering, then that suffering, so this individual is experiencing that kind of suffering because of some causes. So when we analyze and think about the causes, so I have been like contribute that kind of causes for that individual's suffering. And that perspective, we should concern about their suffering. Okay, so we should think about their suffering, and we should take away that kind of suffering, because I am the one who created that kind of suffering from them. That's why we need to think about that. And that's why we are thinking about to taking up all the sufferings of the sentient beings in that terms. And then another one was so if you think and concerning about other and welfare of other, thinking about the welfare of the other, so we are behaving like a Buddha. So Buddhas, their main activities, our main concern is to provide happiness for the sentient beings, and the eliminating, taking away, the separating of the sentient beings from the suffering. If we do that, we are actually copying or behaving similar to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. So if we do that, they will be pleased. They will be happy if we being act like them. And also Rinpoche said, and also the earlier Rinpoche mentioned that you should not think that by meditating on taking up the sufferings of the sentient beings and also for the specific individual, is not going to affect at all. So that by doing that mental exercise, actually creating a karma or something, energy, something that brings opportunity in the future that you can do help the sentient beings directly.
아니 많이 동에디 부유세국이야리스. 세디 아니 삼류트네 담보 삼류군에 세구리스. 삼류군에 세마투네 마세나 아니 류가군에 세투야 매버리스. 저서 semjetamjerangi 많이 시게리스. 기치 표베 온기 뭐마심버리 미셔지 쳔디기 만나시지니 말에디야리스. 디에서 디기 강이 세야드랄 바바리스. 강이 세구비리스. 강이 세야드랄 바바리스. 디 그래서 디 강이 세야디 담부심기토네 강이 세구비리스. sem기토네 강이 마시네 아니 룽가기토네 강이 세토야야 말이스.
So this again the go contest to some gesture.
semjetamje 말.
Oh, let's sorry. So let me say we believe all the sentient beings your mother, right? This has been your mother, it's like a mother. Yeah. So if we believe every sentient being is like your mother, and as a son, as a daughter, our responsibility is to make sure they are happy, they are free from suffering. So this is our responsibility as a son, as a daughter, as a children. Yeah. And then so in order to help them, so we need to so there are three ways of helping sentient beings, like verbally, physically, and mentally. So if you don't have strong mentally kind of commitment, it's really difficult for us to exhibit that kind of actions through the verbal and the physical. So that's why Rinpoche says every verbal actions and the physical actions are pretty much premeditated in your mind. So then if we have that kind of sets of mind in our in our mind stream, then it's really easy for us to make it happen, verbally or the physical. Okay, so that's why we need to train. This is in the training process. So that's why we need to train our mind be really strong enough to to exhibit our verbally and the physical actions. So that's why we are training it. So if we do keep meditating on that kind of mental exercise, in the future we'll encounter opportunity, a chance to help those sentient beings directly through three doors, all of them. This should again towards you, yeah.
Going back to the division that it's conventional, there were the three.
Yes.
There was conventional.
Bodhicitta.
And then you said we were on number 4 where.
There are conventional bodhicitta and ultimate bodhicitta and dedication.
But we're
Okay. The number one has 8 subdivisions. First one is example. Let me see. Second one is Tonglen. That was Tonglen, right? Tonglen, taking and giving. And the third one is identifying what to adopt and what to abandon.
I just couldn't, like, what's the topic for the fourth? Because we're on the fourth and I just don't know, like what's this heading?
Are we on the fourth? No, we are on like a third actually. Sorry, so okay. I said fourth, right? But there was third. So Rinpoche mentioned right after that, but I forgot to tell you. Sorry. Sorry, yes. Oh,
So, but we're not yet.
no, not for that. Yeah. Oh, yes.
And, sorry, just to make sure I have it right. The third is
Third is identifying object to adopt and object to abandon. Okay. Pangni, and yes.
So to take Gloria's example, somebody, you're trying to help somebody who's not doing their part, so we shouldn't feel guilty, but shouldn't we also train our mind to think that maybe in our past life, perhaps they were even our mother and they tried to help us, but we didn't do our part.
Okay.
So maybe keep our commitment.
Yes.
Trying to help them.
Okay. This is answer actually. This is the 호랑이 딩알이야. 단다 뭐기 티와스당스와. 단다 팬데믹이 수술 디체데나 파디 단데 직 니에딩에다 오지로. 딜레 호랑이 삼보된 데스 당나 디기요를 베서 팬나체시나 냐마 호랑이 안줄 약부 시우지체. 아는 안주기 콜 다나시지 칼로로 받지 콜해야지. 순 스tam시 춘에 마셔와 체지 벤 카리나 렌장 카리나 로봇 가서디 제장 디기 아니 저 디부민 버라고 시대 삼단 디 It's good. Any questions? No.
Rani Tegum Tabu Sirvana Tam the Kutu Sena Chevayi Lange Chujarala Kois. That is Rani Tegum Chevetungi, Combetungi, and it Tabus G Kangan Tabu Chesuna, Tebati Senata, Samlo Karitangure nor kichidu rala nor tobechidu paju tamajiya ani shengi nor guya chokside on jen petroya be ji rala on yubada jene on tobji troya ani rangi jawanga manamsu sena jene Jimbala Matawa Sena Chebala Suba Tusugi Lange Chunja de Rana Koi is Samtani.
So verse number 11. So verse number 11. When I tormented by extreme hunger and thirst, it is the weapon of evil karma turning upon me for engaging the deception, thief, and miserly acts. From now on, I will take all hunger and thirst upon myself. Yeah, this is the same thing. Let me say, yeah. So if you have sufferings of hunger and thirst, so this experience are actually a result of your negative deeds, which engaging into deception, and deceiving other people, and talk, a thief, right? Here it's like talk. Talk means you're taking away other position by forcefully. Yeah, and a miserly act, sena, yes, miserly act. So that action actually brought that kind of experience of the hunger and thirst.
Titi Sasu.
This one.
That is some dancer. That's some done rangi. Senacheval Subatusugi, Langi Dripping, but do some. Then it teaches Dani Jagum Malu down to lungs. Dani said any day in sans. Not in this Java in that. Dani, any Semja time, Jaggy, Jagung to me Maluba, Netty Guchuba shows, Netty down to Susu down. Jagung to me, Tendo, Semja Shanky, Jagung to me, Chisum, you but Tamje Lang, Semja Lang, any Semja Tamje. Jagung to me, any Shiva Jesum, somebody. Jagung to me, Yebatus, Ched Shivata. Jagung to me, Maomba, Jagung to me, Yori Kivatusu, Minjua, Jesum, somebody, Samlutan, that in the Chikubiaris.
So,
I am only Kumiati.
so the visualization here, I said, now on I will take all hungers, all hungers of sentient beings, thirst as well, upon me. Right? So that's the Rinpoche said, if you are experiencing hunger and thirst, you can take upon all the sentient beings' hunger and thirst, like mentally take upon yourself and imagine they are free from hunger and thirst. And also not only that, also they are free from the causes of hunger and thirst. And that then you can incorporate with the tolerant practices. Tolerant practice after that, taken up on their thirst and their hunger upon you, and providing them the joyfulness of the happiness, whatever you have, that kind of thing.
No, that the Tegum Kutungi, Atilaka Mapu Yungri, Chita says Rangis Senola Sobatusu, any maybe only any Chitena Mokichun to Tegum Chuyaris. Ya Munela Sobatusu Deba Tichina, Nechi Tegum Kutungi Chunguyaris. Tichina, Ane Semja Tam Jagi Tegum Kutungi, Nedi Kuchubasho. Shana Tegum Kutungi Mijuasho, Jene.
So, once in a while, we have that kind of experience, what's it, hunger and thirst. If we have mugyas and I think epidemic, no, epidemic, right? Sickness, yeah, yes. So, if you have that, if we caught into that kind of situation, we'll experience thirst and hunger, and sometimes there's a practice, it's called nyungne, like fasting, the retreat, right? If you're doing that retreat, you will have experience of hunger and thirst. At that moment, it's really good time to meditate on particular for this subject.
That only Kumyati Chipari Taji Kane the Tetu nearly Sheba Semdi to make shit to Tamba Kane to some Toya Kangacha Imba to name and Jumes. A curious was several cheese. Shall I need you give a cheese? Ane Tilanjim Shikela Gas to Sukanga, that in my to Sukanga, some Toya Kanga Chipari.
So the meditation, the same meditation what Rinpoche described earlier, just before earlier, Rinpoche the Tonglen practice. You should incorporate with the Tonglen practice. Tonglen practice is giving and taking, giving and taking. Right? So you're giving away your welfare and happiness and taking back all the sufferings of sentient beings. And also Rinpoche recited a verse. Our verse is actually describing the good qualities of the suffering, right? Suffering. if you don't have suffering, then you don't have renunciation. I try to just, like roughly kind of translation, okay? If you don't have suffering, then you don't have renunciation. If you have suffering, then it helps you to overcome your pride. And if you have suffering, then it helps you to prevent, helps you to prevent from engaging into negative actions. Okay? Karsa di digla ge dig di sikje shidi khandere karsa di thangbo di dunghe me na ngeju me che kyowe teba sewa che che ani
kowa pa na nyingi ki
kobar nyingji ke ani okay.
tila jimshi kela ka
Yeah. Third one is suffering helps you to generate compassion towards sentient beings. And the last one is helps you to prevent from negative actions. Okay, those are the good qualities of the suffering.
o tini tegum gu tunge sewe chi tegum gu tunge sewe ani chi simje shingi tegum gu tunge seya ga samluti rāla tegum gu tunge majuni yang pene rangi se sawati chena kunjole cheba phi ne ra sel long chu se sambul long chu ki yare ani simje mambu chi pene yita singe lo tonda mambu se chu de zale marabati de mambu yare ani nyawa ta yita ta tunduna la se de nima mambu se marani kang mambu tete mambu yare mi na le ni be se ge phung de be kang mambu tete mambu yare ti yosane rang se le no chu de zamba kunjole cheba phi ani rangi cheba phi ke zawa tene semje ani tegum gu phung de ni ge semje de da tegum gu tunge shine ani se sangbulo ro chu gi yong sho sam tung gi yare sti tegum gu tunge nana patu samlo ma dong ha ke mari tegum gu tunge se ya gi samlo ti ra se le no chu tu zamba satung le no che tu zamba samlo tong gi yare samlo ti
So this practice, this practice is so not only you can, it can be done when you have that kind of experience, actual experience. It can be done while you're having a meal and eating your food. There are numberless of sentient beings. Numberless of sentient beings are going through sufferings of hunger and thirst. For instance, so the most extreme ones you can imagine is the hungry ghost. Okay, hungry ghost. They said they can't find single drop of water for like 1,000 years. So they're hunting for that kind of single drop of water for 1,000 years, and also food. They're always constantly experiencing hunger. Hunger. So you can imagine them. And also, if you go down there, then the hell realms being, they don't have. They are also experiencing hunger and thirst as well. And when we look at the animal realms, there are many animals actually going through this kind of difficulties, hunger and thirst. And not only that, in human realms also, there are many people, they are also experiencing hunger and thirst. While you're having good meal, your lunch and dinner, whatever the thing. So usually we make prayer. We make prayer means we make offering to the before we eat the food, we make offering to higher beings like Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. The whole purpose of that is to accumulate merit, accumulate positive energy, positive karma. Then that positive karma can become the causes to eliminate the sufferings of the hunger and thirst of those beings. What is listed like hungry ghosts and so on and so forth. There, so you can dedicate for their welfare of the happiness. So freeing from them the hunger and thirst. So you can dedicate for that. So this is the prayer, the offering, making offering to the higher beings only purpose to bring the happiness for those beings, those who has experience of hunger and thirst.
제가 단둘이지 배나는 다 뒤져. 다 내내 존재라는 거. 다 오메 생기 그릇이 나를 치. 다 오메 생기 그릇이 나를 치. 매라 당시 전도 그와이 내내 존재라는 거이. 다 오메도 생기 그와니 본부서기 그래서 다 간제 오메도 생기 그릇이 나를 치다 라라 라와메바 생기 온도 손에 배지 강에 시부지 체버디 체너스 오메 생기 그릇이 나를 치스 생기 대여러분들 추니 생기부터 그래서 생 오유부터 저기 시원도 손에 아니 강에 체는 동에 나와디 체나 디 가르삼도 땅고래스네 디 강에 디 근데 스테도 삼땅인데 랑기 겨왕만남서 매라 당시 마 멤버 요 멤버 요 그도 매버버든데 요베 지기 냠타바 두술 당부제 제요를 그지 요구를 그 디데기 네지 랭에 초제다라를 코아레샤스 랭에 초제 데브레샤스 바티티 달미샤스 버르치 삼을 당구게리스.
So the verse number 12. When I am powerless and suffer in servitude, right? Servitude to others, it is the weapon of evil karma turning upon me for being hostile to the weak and subjugating them. Okay, subjugating them. So yes, sometimes we becomes like the victim of powerful people or beings, right? Beings, and kind of like involuntarily we need to obey their orders, so on and so forth. So, and it happens, when it happens to us, then we are going through different types of suffering, different types of different kinds of difficulties and suffering. So then at the moment, so that is actually, it is the weapon of evil karma turning upon me for being hostile to the weak. Means like we have done like a similar kind of act, and so we we look down on the being who's like a low status, and we force them to work something they don't want, like that, subjugating them. So this, we should imagine, we should think that these are I'm having that kind of problem because I've done something that kind of similar kind of act in the previous lifetime. That's why I'm having that.
어디 메두신도 대요를 그거기 랭에서 그래. 수수 대바 당돌라니 대요 제비는 랑글레티 잡아 말아봐. 메두신도 대요를 그게 제비는 디수기 랭에티 인샤서 버르지.
So the servitude, right? Servitude to other. There are two types of servitude. There are two types of, servicing other. One kind of like we are listening to we are obeying their command or their order unwillingly, sort of like unwillingly. But there's another type of servitude or servicing we are providing to other willingly, with your strong kind of conviction. We are doing that. There are two types of servitude.
다니
Oh yeah, so here is talking about the something something you don't have power, you don't have control yourself. You're doing something under the power of others, the others.
다니 다니 류소 현도 거를 자스도 안가르 디 제부 예사 다디 다니스 류소 현도 거를 자스도 류소 하마 여버디 세 항바이더지 여버디 세 항바 그제 주네 디 류소디 라치지 온도 라운드도 메고 셴도도 거에 셴도도 당기 사퍼 류초티 응아르베 디첩들다 류소 랑기 류소티 라운드도 메고 라운드도 베치도 베주 마타와 셴도도 베치도 베주 당기 삼사를 주고요.
So from now on, I will employ my body and life in the service of others. So then, since we understand, realize whatever problem is like, we are the only one who created that. Then we decided to offer our body, your lifespan, to sake of other welfare. So we are making some kind of promise or commitment that I'm not going to use this body and my lifespan for myself, for acquiring benefit for myself. I'm going to use this lifespan and my body for the to make it like the causes to bring happiness to the other beings.
디다 랑기 다네 수디 랑기 지 लेगा चिया करी ने लेगा करी चीने दोआ तो दोबारा सुपर कंटे चीने शेंगी दिगी टुबे चीतो साम्या तेरी शेंगी तेवा टुबिया शेंगी काये ने सेया चीतो ने सुसुकी लेगा करी चीने चेगे चिया दिस लेगा करी चीने शेंगी कांगे सेगी यारे बा सेगी यारे 마심제 탐제기 대화도 동에서야디 심제 탐제 레버리 심제 탐제 시도자 심제 강글로 잘치니 되게 좀 그게야 말에 라 카도기 지 심제 되게 강에서야디 세구야래 아니 제사 랑기 레 가르제네 심제디기 레제스디 강에세다 디디기 두야기치도 랑기 되 삼로디 마기비지 셴기 디기 셴기 강에세 셴기 디기 두베치디 수순 조야디 체네 삼로디 땅에 셴기 디기 두베치도 조셈버 셴기 강에세야기치도 조야도 두바다 셀레노지네 셴기 강에세야기치도 지게 라운드도 삼만 마담지 셴도도 삼만 땅고야 다 류소 류이당 노주 근제지네 지 랑게 체 라마요 강걸로 심제기 디기 두비치도 땅 삼바지 삼만 땅고야
So says, I will employ my body and life in the service of others, right? So that means you must say, so we constantly think of others' welfare. Okay, for instance, when you walk, when you eat, when you sleep, so constantly think about other welfare. So that is the practice. It's talking in this, explaining in this text. So that is, you must say, we usually when we do prayer, when we make prayer, when we do prayer, we always says sake of all the sentient beings. So we chant that like sake of, for the sake of sentient beings. Right? In that words, we wording that kind of sentient beings. But for us, so like for our level, it's really difficult to make it happen and help the entire sentient beings. all the sentient beings. But so we do have some extent of ability to help sentient beings. That is, for instance, if you're working if you're working in an office or wherever, so that you may not aware, but you're helping like some extent to the others. So that is actually helping to others, and also let me say you can transform every single activities into the benefit for this, transform to this benefit to the sentient beings. For instance, if you walk when you have your meal, when you're eating, so you can imagine why I'm eating this in order to provide happiness for the sentient beings. When you walk, so I'm walking this for the sake of the sentient beings to bring some kind of benefit for the sentient beings. Keeping that kind of mental attitude constantly, so that is the practice of what we were describing in this text. So we may not be able to help entire sentient beings, but we do have some capable to help, ability to help sentient beings somewhat when it comes to you, and if they are like in front of you.
Ngar panje to pe rangi ji kares lega kanche bati rani ki tiki ki chito samtan je tan de yerba ta chinje de rani ki tiki ki chito mai ba shen ki tiki ki chito lobjon ji jene shen ki tiki ki chito je sambati lobjon ji de sambati le to ba kanje se de le to ba draw la so but de che ba ti chine semba samji le to je che gu ge re ngadi ti che ba ine kare su re ngare pe rang tu gi chi to chan jan sam ta shen gi ti gi chi to sam ma tam bar ba ta lob chu chi de shen gi ti gi chi to sam lo ta se la long chu ba ti chine sang tin de tam tam bal te ne ani sam ba sang bu ti nga shu shu chi ke ya ju ngu ba ti chu su ne ani ran pen do shi ba yung gre
So up to now, this life, we are pretty sure that we have been thinking about ourselves, self cherishing, sort of like self cherishing. We have been thinking ourselves. Now, so that didn't help you to overcome your problem. So now on, so you should make like commitment or decided to do the opposite one. So concerning about other and thinking about other. So if you do that, if you constantly any activities in you incorporate, able to incorporate with the welfare of the other sentient beings, then after a while, that kind of mental attitude, that kind of understanding arise really easily. And the initial level, you may need to put like a effort to have that kind of mindset. But after a while, it gets habit and it arises really easily.
Ta nga phenje te rang kange te kande segui na samsa je rang kange se janja sam tamro ta jeju semba nam ji na shi je sheng kange se ge thamji kare to sheng kange se sam janja ji ta ya sam tin de ta ya ge molom jaya sambutin de ji ya molom jaya ani samba sambuti ji gadu ne ji ye ya gi tabshi ji ya atinde je gu ge re.
So up until now, so due to our self-cherishing, we have been going through like a different types of difficulties. But when we have self-cherishing, up until now, so our goal, our aim is to bring happiness for yourself. But it didn't work so far. So then when we look at the other beings, like a bodhisattva, bodhisattva, the way and the life of bodhisattva, so they are doing the right opposite what we have been doing. So they are concerning about other, they're helping to other, welfare of the other. So because of that, the other cherishing, sort of like other cherishing, they're having like the good life, sort of like good life, and they're free from suffering and so on and so forth. So that's why we need to do exactly what they're doing. since we do have that kind of ambition, that kind of desire to bring happiness for yourself and eliminating, like separating any single moment of suffering from yourself, we do have that kind of intention, but we have been using the different method. But now, it's worthwhile to use the Bodhisattva's method.
Yeah,
Okay, we can stop here.